Nous attendons le feu vert des traducteurs.
Là, c'est...
Bienvenue à tous les participants.
So welcome to all attendees. So shall I start? Yes. So good afternoon. Welcome to all attendees from across Europe who are joining us at our event on Integrative Oncology, hosted by the members of the European Parliament's Interest Group on Integrative Medicine and Health. So welcome to my colleague, the members of the European Parliament. We have Shirpa Pietikainen, we have Margrethe Hocken. Unfortunately, the other colleagues like Margaret Auken, Tilly Metz and Eleonora Evi are not able to join us today. I'm delighted to say that excellent experts today in the field of integrative oncology will be able to share their insights with us during the next 2 hours. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to add them in the chat. We will answer them as much as possible during the Q&A session. So there is a growing body of evidence supporting the fact that the integrative therapies are efficient, effective supportive care strategies in cancer patients. Integrative oncology is an emerging evidence-based field which incorporates complementary medicine modalities into traditional cancer and conventional cancer care. Many leading academic cancer centers in Northern America and Europe are developing integrative oncology centers to ensure that the research into the use of complementary medicine strategies is conducted with scientific methods and rigor. So you know that the European Commission has proposed a strategy to fight against cancer. There is a special commission on this fight against cancer. We've talked a lot about treatment, access to medicine, and there is also a part that we will be able to discuss about integrative medicine. With regards to this event, we've invited 5 European experts who are well aware of integrative medicine, were experts of this field, and they are going to tell us about available data on oncology and integrative oncology. So I'm very happy to present Mrs. Claudia Witt, who is a professor of medicine at the University of Zurich in Switzerland. She's director of the Institute for Complementary and Integrative Medicine at the University Hospital of Zurich. She's a senior researcher at the Institute for Social Medicine, Epidemiology and Health Economics at the Charité University in Berlin, Germany. She's a medical doctor, an epidemiologist, and a research methodologist who is internationally recognized for her work. She will give us an introduction into integrative cancer care and its evidence base. I will now give the floor to Professor Claudia Witt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to give you an introduction into the topic today. And I will speak from both perspectives, the perspectives of the MD, the medical doctor, and the researcher. And I'd like to address the topics of our citizens and patients and talk a little bit about the development of the field and also the evidence base. So let's start with a citizen's perspective. When we go into recent data, there is a systematic review from Europe showing us that a quarter of our general population has used complementary therapies during the last 12 months. If you would look for lifetime prevalences, it would be much higher. But we also discover a problem when we go into the literature, because there is a systematic review and meta-analysis showing us that only a third of the patients who use biologically based complementary therapies declare those to their medical practitioners. And when we think about cancer patients and the complex medical interventions we have here, a non-disclosure of pharmaceutical aspects, will bring up interaction problems. And that's why we move now to the cancer patient's perspective. And here we see from the data, again, data from a systematic review, that more than half of the cancer patients use complementary therapies. And as we know, this varies over the different cancer types, with breast cancer patients having usually a higher usage, up to 70% here of the patients. These are patients with multiple cancers, but this is also very much driven by the breast cancer patients. Here's a high usage, but we have also cancer types like head and neck cancer, where a lower ratio of the patients use it, around 20%. But nevertheless, on average, every second cancer patient. So we have to deal with the topic. And this topic is still a little bit the elephant in the room. And you see here different elephants because it depends on the interprofessional team. So cancer care has very much developed in an interprofessional type of care, and the roles in a care team are usually well defined. But they're not defined at all if we talk about complementary therapies. So what happens when we see the patient in the middle, what we do in interprofessional care, our patient might ask different members of the care team and might get different answers. Because very often the answers are still driven by own opinions, by experiences. And what we usually want is that we all use the same evidence base to inform our patients. And here I have shown again the 3 pillars of evidence-based medicine. And the evidence from clinical research, I think all of us know that this is important, and that's also the clinical expertise of the clinicians plays a role. But there is a 3rd pillar which has been developed by Sackett at the end of his career, and these are the values and beliefs of patients. And that's something important when we talk about complementary therapies. But meanwhile, we have also evidence supporting that it is important to take it into account, because expectation, which is also triggered by beliefs, is one of the main mechanisms of a placebo effect. So knowing this where we stand, it is important that a field is also more structured. And an important structure for a field is to have a clear definition. There have been plenty of definitions out on integrative medicine and integrative oncology. And at one point we said, as a Society for Integrative Oncology, we really would like to do a consensus procedure and develop a comprehensive definition here. This society is an international interprofessional society where also colleagues from the big cancer centers in the US like MD Anderson, MSKCC, or Dana-Farber are on the board. And we had the opportunity to do this process. And I find we came up with a really nice definition here, where you see the patient-centered aspect is included. It's an evidence-informed field and very clear it's alongside conventional cancer treatments. So we are talking about supportive care here and not about an alternative to cancer treatments. And what I like very much is that we really included that it should support patients to become active participants. So here we enter the constructs of self-care, self-efficacy, but also empowerment of patients. But when you have a definition, you can't stop there, because you also want to have competent providers. So the next step by the Society of Integrative Oncology was to develop core competencies for providers. We did a very systematic approach with a systematic literature review, with an international expert consensus, including North America, Asia, and Europe here. And it was over those professions which you see here, not only the medical doctors, we did it much wider. And surprisingly, we could fully agree for all professions on the same core competencies, 11 on knowledge, 17 on skills, 9 on abilities. And you read some examples here. And as you can see, for example, describes a cancer care continuum is something we already learn in medical school, but a yoga teacher won't learn it in a typical training. So those professions would need then extra training for this competency, for example. So we were able then to take these competencies and the definition into a large network project in Germany called COCON, funded by the German Cancer Aid. And one part of this project was that we developed a modern blended learning to train oncology physicians. 2 days of skills training with a lot of role plays and communication, and 9 hours of e-learning, which introduced a lot of knowledge on complementary therapies. Then we put this into a randomized controlled trial comparing 2 groups. One group got trained with the training I mentioned, and they had to do a 20-minute consultation, which was a kind of guided consultation here according to a framework to their patients. And the other group only handed out a leaflet on reputable websites and introduced this leaflet. And we have just got accepted the publication also on this part of the data in cancer. And we realized here that we really had positive effects on physicians and patients measured in those physicians or patients who had the training construct. And as you can see, there are already a lot of publications on this project out, and all the data is available online. But this was only the training of the physicians, and it was one project. And very often, if there's evidence, the problem is that physicians or even nurses don't know where to send the patient. So another project we did within this framework was developing a criteria list for reputable providers. Again, systematic literature search, expert consensus, and then even this criteria were tested within this large cluster randomized trial. And you see here's a list of criteria which we came up with, and this leaflet is also freely available over our website, and here is also the QR code for those of you who want to access it. This was about the field getting more professional, but we also need evidence, because based on the evidence, we do some of the important decisions. And here clinical practice guidelines play an important role. And the Society for Integrative Oncology has partnered with the American Society for Clinical Oncology. There's already one guideline out for breast cancer, and 2 more guidelines at the moment, which are more symptom specific, are in the development. But also in Germany, these things are going forward. There has been hard work over 3 years in the German guideline program on oncology, and we have now nearly finalized the guideline on complementary medicine and oncology, and the final version will be up this year. And this is also a fully evidence and consensus-based guideline. Let me highlight some evidence, and I use now this ASCO endorsed guideline from SIO for breast cancer patients, because this is already fully published. And you see here also grading. And A, B are stronger recommendations than C, but for all of those, you need at least a good randomized controlled trial. And when we have a look for the mind-body therapies like meditation here, for example, you see there are indications where this can be recommended: anxiety, mood disturbances, and quality of life. And there is even a longer list here for yoga, also including indications which are difficult to treat in cancer patients, like the cancer-related fatigue, for example. Let me pull another example from this guideline, this time acupuncture and acupressure. Again, the same grading type here, and you see quite a list where are recommendations for acupuncture and also for acupressure, which can be done as a self-care option, because it's just 1 point at the risk for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. And all of those things which I mentioned here are non-pharmacological interventions, so we don't have to worry about interactions with cancer medications here. But when we have this training, the evidence, the definition, we also need a kind of implementation here. And the best systematic data I got here from the United States, this is an analysis of the websites of the National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer centers. In 2016, already 90% of them provided information of complementary therapies. 60% had at this time already integrative medicine physicians. And they provided services, and I only mention the services here which over 50% of the cancer centers provide. And you see here acupuncture, dietary supplements, exercise, herbs, meditation, and yoga. Another thing which is important for implementation, that there is good information available. And for example, there is this website and app from the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where you have up-to-date information. But nicely, there is also a project which has originally been funded in the beginning by the FP5 framework of the European Commission. And this is Camp Cancer, where you also can download fact sheets on the evidence of different interventions here. So let me come to an end and summarize and provide an outlook. I think I showed we have a high usage, and that there's also, from the things I mentioned, we can see there's a potential for self-care and empowerment of patients. And I find this a very important point in the cancer care journey, but we have a very heterogeneous field. And there are a lot of things available under the label of complementary and integrative medicine, which are not useful for our cancer patients. But the field is much better defined now than it has been before. We have a definition, we have core competencies, we can train providers here. The evidence base is increasing, and we have a bunch of ongoing research here. And we have up-to-date high-quality information on evidence. We still need to invest more in this because this is quite some effort which is needed to keep this up to date. We need more trained providers, but we also really need, for those things which are evidence-based, health insurance coverage. It should not be out of pocket if there is solid evidence behind. And we need a quality management of the whole field. And then we can really provide proper access to evidence-based complementary medicine care for cancer patients. Thank you very much for your attention.
Voilà, merci.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Claudia Witt. Our next speaker, is a senior physician at the Department of Internal and Integrative Medicine, Integrative Oncology, and the Interdisciplinary Breast Cancer Center at the Academic Teaching Hospital Hessen-Mitte at the University of Duisburg-Essen in Germany. She's a well-known researcher in integrative oncology with a focus on breast cancer specifically. That is also the subject of her presentation. Interestingly, up to 80% of breast cancer survivors have used complementary treatment in tandem with conventional cancer care. So now I give the floor to Dr. Petra Voice.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to show the concept of the Kliniken Essen-Mitte in Integrative Oncology. I will start at this slide. We do integrative cancer care at the Kliniken Essen-Mitte, and you heard that I'm a senior physician. The head of the department I work at is Professor Dobosch, and he's also the chair and founding director of the chair of complementary medicine at the University of Duisburg-Essen. Of course, we do teaching for students, but also for postgraduates. And we do research, and we do have a hospital with 54 inpatient ward, and we do have ambulances as well. We take part in guideline work, and we do have an ambulance for integrative oncology. And we closely cooperate with the breast cancer unit at our hospital. Here you see Professor Dobosch, who is the head of the department I work for, and you see Professor Kümmel, who is the head of the breast unit at the Evangelischen Kliniken Essen-Mitte. And Professor Witt looked at our concept back in 2012 and compared it with the MD Anderson concept, and she labeled our concept best of both worlds. And I will show you in my talk now why she did so. And the first contact is with the patients while they are at the breast unit as inpatients after surgery. And we do go on rounds twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, to see the patients of Professor Kümmel. And a psycho-oncologist and the breast care nurse join me when I go on rounds. And we do offer treatment to the patients already then at that point. For example, a lot of patients after breast surgery, they do have back pain because they lay on the back all the time. They are supposed to sleep on the back. So they develop back pain. And then we offer acupuncture, usually ear acupuncture to treat it. Or we work with nursing care, with compresses. And also mind-body medicine therapists work in our team. And we do foot massage. And that was for the inpatients, but also we do have an ambulance. So after the patient got their tumor board decision and knows the treatment plan, they can have a consultation with a physician who is trained in integrative oncology, and also in consultation with a mind-body medicine therapist. And then we do offer treatments to the patients depending on the symptoms they show. And we do have quite a few different treatments like acupuncture, phytotherapy. We do work with mistletoe therapy. I will get to that later. But really something very unique and special at our hospital is the Integrative Mind-Body Medicine Group program for cancer patients. And we do have different types of program. We do have a program for patients during systemic therapy. We do have a program for patients during anti-hormonal therapy. And we do have a program for patients with metastasis and also for cancer survivors. And in our program, we do use quite a few mind-body techniques. We talk about nutrition, we do exercise with the patients and train them in doing exercise. We talk about psychoneuroimmunology, about stress management. We do yoga with them and cognitive restructuring. And always there's a physician group consultation during the program. And this is the schedule of the program for patients going through systemic therapy. Usually they join the program 1 or 2 days before chemotherapy. We draw blood and look at the blood. And then we also train them concerning exercise, and we do acupuncture in that program to reduce side effects. And there's always a group consultation as well. And we did do an observational study with 57 breast cancer patients going through chemotherapy. And we looked at the development of their quality of life. Here, and I will guide you through this slide because it's a little complicated to understand. Usually for the function scales of the EORTC, a higher scale is a better functioning. And see, the patients started with the program at the beginning of chemotherapy, and they were done with the program after visiting 11 times by the end of the chemotherapy. So interestingly, the quality of life did improve a little bit through the program. Usually the quality of life, the overall quality of life declines during chemotherapy. The cognitive functioning did decline, which you can expect during chemotherapy. Also, the patients developed a little more fatigue, more nausea and vomiting, and more dyspnea. But interestingly, the perceived stress declined. The anxiety and depression declined by taking part at the program during the chemotherapy. And in a certain fatigue inventory, the fatigue didn't really increase. So this is a bit confusing that in the one questionnaire, the fatigue increased and in the other one it didn't. But interestingly, the patients really were less stressed, and they did get a few skills. They developed skills during the program. And we asked the patients by their last visit if they had benefit from the program or if they didn't. And they will say things like, the program has helped me to get out of the hole, or I feel more confident about nutrition and exercise, which is so important because patients should become active participants, as Professor Witt showed, and exercise is so important during active treatment to reduce fatigue. And on Monday, I was going around in the hospital in the breast unit of Professor Krümmel, and I met a patient who joined our mind-body medicine program 5 years ago. And she would tell me, oh, it was such a great pleasure to take part in the program. And she said, through the diagnosis, one experiences a loss of control, and the program really helps to regain some of the control, and it's great, and it's even sustainable. She still benefits 5 years after taking part in the program. And she told me, well, you did a great job, not only accompanying a disease, but a life. So this program is really nice, and in the context of research concerning resilience, it's even very important. In the German medical journal, there was a review published by the end of 2019 concerning resilience. And resilience refers to the ability to maintain or quickly recover to a healthy mental state during and after exposure to stressful life circumstances like a cancer diagnosis. And they found out that it's best to implement resilience enhancing interventions during active treatment, during somatic treatment. It's so important to support patients in that phase of their life. And so that really shows how important a mind-body medicine program like I showed you is for patients during systemic therapy. And they recommended a group program with at least 12 sessions and 24 hours. The program I showed you, it's 11 sessions, but it's a 66-hour program, and it's covered by legal health insurance company, which is unique for Essen. There's another mind-body program for cancer survivors in Berlin, and there's also one in Stuttgart that is covered by a legal health insurance company. And now I want to present you one patient, a young lady I did see in June last year. She got her initial diagnosis back in 2019, and she got chemotherapy first, and then she got surgery. And she consulted me 1 year after that. And she had to take anti-hormonal therapy to prevent recurrence. So she took letrozole and Soladex and some pain medicine twice daily, and she complained about pain in her legs since chemotherapy, morning stiffness, and she said that movement improved the pain. So she also had a sleep disturbance with a degree of impairment from 4 to 5 on a scale from 0 to 10. And a fatigue from 6 to 7 on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being no fatigue and 10 being worst fatigue possible. She also had hot flashes, which were bothering, and pain. And now if we look at the guidelines, the therapies we would recommend is, for example, yoga to improve fatigue, sleep, and probably also hot flashes and pain. And aerobic and resistance exercise to improve fatigue and sleep. We would recommend acupuncture and acupressure to improve fatigue, sleep, pain, and hot flashes. And cognitive behavioral therapy to improve insomnia. But the lady came to me during Corona. She has 2 young children, 2 and 4 years old. So for her, it's really hard to implement yoga or acupuncture in her daily life. That's why I did recommend her to take mistletoe therapy, which can improve quality of life. And she did use mistletoe and equinovo, which is a plant-based medicine containing pineapple extract and papaya extract. And I did talk to her again in August, and she told me that all symptoms had improved and that she only had a little bit of fatigue from 2 to 3, and she was clearly more efficient in her daily life and was able to get her daily life done with 2 small children. So my conclusions are integrative oncological therapies have the potential to improve quality of life, fatigue, pain, and insomnia. And resilience-enhancing interventions should be provided parallel with somatic treatment. The patient has the security of being treated with evidence-based medicine and has the opportunity to benefit from the best of both worlds. But this collaboration only works because of trust and unbiasedness between the breast unit and our department. And that's very important, in my opinion, to develop integrative oncology. Thank you so much for your attention.
Merci Petra Voice de cette intervention. Et je vois que...
Thank you very much, Dr. Petra Voice, for this intervention. And I see that both of you, Dr. Vit or you always put the patient at the core of your studies. And then we see that there is a cross-sectorial vision with a good analysis of the patients. Now I will introduce our next speaker. She's a director of the Oncology, IMO, Oncology Institute of Holistic Health, Medicine Oncology, IMO in Barcelona, Lleida, Spain. She's a trained oncologist, well-known researcher on oncology, a teacher and a practitioner of several modalities of complementary integrative medicine. She will give a presentation about integrative treatment of cancer patients in her institute in Spain. So now I give the floor to Dr. Natalia Erez.
Thank you very much for your invitation. Thank you. I try to share here. Okay. This. Okay. So, well, 2 weeks ago, Dr. Nicolai invited me to share my experience as the director of a clinical project in integrative oncology in Barcelona. I'm very happy to it. But although I trained and I worked in excellent Catalan cancer hospitals, I left my job as a clinical oncologist some time ago to start my own adventure in integrative oncology outside the medical hospital setting. So my experience is going to be a little bit different. When I was working in the oncology department of this great hospital in Barcelona, some time ago, I had two clear objectives as a conventional oncologist in these times. One of them was the tumor treatment, and the other when the tumor was no longer the target, supportive or palliative care. Palliative care was applied when cancer cure or containment was not possible anymore. If patient couldn't live longer, at least live better, comfort was, of course, the priority. Although it was an approach that was usually initiated in advanced stages of cancer, I realized that many patients could benefit from starting it at the beginning of the disease. And on an ongoing basis, this would be really a continuum of care. It was in early 90s when American women with breast cancer pushed complementary therapies to become part of this continuum care concept. These were the very beginnings of integrative oncology for me. They experienced that these non-pharmacological supportive treatments were less disruptive than drugs, and they were especially beneficial when applied in conjunction with oncological treatments. But women wanted more and better results. They were not satisfied with comfort, and they wanted to be stronger, to feel themselves more empowered to overcome the disease and to resist the cancer treatments. They wanted to be resilient. Resilience is not only a psychological concept, but also a physical one. We can enhance biological resilience by improving immune system, microbiome, detoxification, metabolism, stress management, and more. This is what the scientific studies say, and that's what integrative medicine in cancer care does, enhancing patient resilience and comfort. In addition, biological resilience in cancer patients is especially important as they receive very toxic treatments. Many of us who garden know that when we use strong pesticides on our plants, we must take especially good care of them and nourish the soil so that the plant can withstand the treatment. If toxic treatment affects a plant, it can definitely affect people. So we could assume that enhancing resilience in cancer care opens the possibility not living better, but also living longer. With all these premises in mind, I designed the Holistic Cancer Care Model at the Moe Institute, and little by little, we constitute a team with a shared vision and practice. To date, we cover 3 aspects of the cancer process: prevention, continuous care, and cancer survivors' recovery. This is a private project with 25 years of experience. We make about 1,600 medical visits per year and 3,000 different therapies and nursing procedures per year. All our services are mainly ambulatory, with agreements and partnerships with private cancer clinics and hospitals. Our pillars of care practice are holism, salutogenesis, humanism, and oncological criteria. For us, they are essential and make a big difference in how we do what we do. We believe that human beings, their lives and health processes have to be considered as a whole and not pieces that have to be integrated. We speak of holistic and not integrative on purpose to overcome the idea of integration that stems from a dualistic, separated view. We consider that different levels of health are expressed in the human body in a dynamic continuum, ranging from optimal health to a very low one, the latter corresponding to a disease. This is a nice concept that comes from Antonovsky, a medical anthropologist. In our holistic model, the enhancement of salutogenesis is key to fostering cancer containment and regenerates the person in all areas, not just the physical. For us, holistic care is anchored in a scientific knowledge, but incorporates more creative and humanistic elements to boost health, not only in the biological dimension, but also in the anthropological and existential one. The transdisciplinary nature of our holistic model includes not only oncologists, but other physicians, nurses, and different health agents. Sharing oncological criteria among us ensures that everyone has basic knowledge about cancer and treatments to generate positive therapeutic synergies and avoid risk of interactions. In clinical practice, our model is structured in areas and units. As you can see in this slide, medical and nursing areas are the basis. The therapeutic units are autonomous, but at the same time, they depend on the medical area for the elaboration of transdisciplinary therapeutical programs. In the holistic medical area, we make comprehensive diagnosis and we establish an holistic framework for understanding and action. We work with the vision of conventional medicine, integrative and traditional medicine all together. We use environmental medicine criteria too, since in cancer care and prevention, this is nowadays a priority. The knowledge systems of traditional medicines, such as Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, give us a much richer and more real vision of the person and his processes, and help us to design more comprehensive and coherent treatments. Whenever possible, we share information and opinion with the conventional oncology referral team. We prescribe herbs, supplements, essential oils, homeopathy, and drugs if it's necessary. And we design transdisciplinary programs with different therapies provided by the units. Working in close coordination with the medical area, the patient, and the family nursing area is really very important. And as we can see, covers different aspects of care of support. These are the main treatments we are currently offering in our different units, but I don't have time to explain in depth now. But we have physical unit, movement unit, man unit, food unit, metabolic unit, and laboratory unit. So I would like to end sharing some final considerations. For me, conventional oncology in the 21st century still sustains its cancer view from a biomedical science-centered paradigm that considers the disease as a deficit, problem, or disability. The disease and the person are viewed as separated and independent parts, and the information that patients and their families receive are still in a markedly medicalized language. The holistic perspective in cancer care gives the person back sovereignty over health and life, recognizing that a person is much more than their disease, a whole being arising from a powerful interconnection between body, mind, emotion, energy, society, culture, and more. All of this will significantly influence health, illness, and resilience, and constitute a human science in itself. Hemo experience is just one of many possible holistic care experiences in oncology. I think that expanding and implementing similar models in our current healthcare system is feasible, sustainable, and of course, necessary. Thank you very much.
Merci, merci, Dr. Natalia Heres.
Thank you, Dr. Natalia Heres. Now I'd like to give the floor to our next speaker, who is a coordinating physician at the Department of Integrative Medicine at the St. Vincent Hospital Group in Strasbourg, is also a lecturer at the Medicine and Pharmacy faculty at the Strasbourg University, and is a president and a member of several oncology networks in France. He will give a presentation about the care of cancer patients in France at the Department for Integrative Care in this hospital in Strasbourg. So now I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Jean-Lionel Bagot.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Rivasi. Merci de m'avoir présenté.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rivasi. Thank you for introducing me.
I will share with you my experience in Strasbourg, and I would like to share my PowerPoint. That's right. That's okay. And that's okay. It's okay for me. I'm sorry, I'm a French doctor, so I don't speak so very well English. I try to speak better I can. So I'm very happy to be here with you to share my experience in Strasbourg and to share my experience in integrative oncology. I just try to. I have a problem. Okay, that's my disclosure of interest because I was expert for the free French laboratory, homeopathic laboratory for the IF authority homeopathy in France 2 years ago. So I just want to speak to you to this study. It's a French study which shows that 5 years after cancer, more than half of the patients have problem with the fatigue problem, with their job, and it's absolutely abnormal that 5 years after cancer treatment you have so much problem. So we have to do something to to avoid this, you know, and say never again that, and we have to do something. That's why we are here together. So integrative oncology, we spoke about it before, so I don't want to show you too much, but in France, the reality is that homeopathy is very present in integrative oncology. I will show you that. We carried out a multi-center descriptive study through a questionnaire and delivered to patients being treated in 4 cancer centers in Strasbourg. Of the 535 patients included, 251 used at least one form of complementary medicine. That is to say, almost half of all patients. As you can see, the users declared a high degree of general satisfaction. And we asked to the patient what was the symptoms for which complementary medicine was more active. And it was for the fatigue, you know, the best degree of satisfaction. Fatigue is the most common symptom in oncology, and for which there's a little answer in conventional medicine. Pain, nausea, anxiety, sadness, diarrhea are the symptoms for which improvement were reported in at least 80% of cases. Conversely, you can see low libido, weight gain, and hair loss were the symptoms for which integrative medicine have been found to be the least effective. With 65% of users, homeopathy in France was the most widely cited integrative medicine. You can see the other one. You see acupuncture, for instance, is only 6%. You see mistletoe, anthroposophy mistletoe is not very used in France because we can buy it in France. It's not permitted. So in Strasbourg, 31% of all the cancer patients use homeopathy. Or for breast cancer patients, it's 40%. And homeopathy in France is prescribed by doctors. Homeopathy prevalence of use doubled over 12 years in France. So I work in the hospital group. It used to belong to the Sisters of Charity, whose founder is Saint Vincent de Paul, whom you can see here on the slide. It's a non-profit making private health hospital. And I would like, I'm very happy to introduce you to the first French outpatient department for integrative care, which opened its doors a year and a half ago. Because we believe that every patient faced by illness is unique in their choices, social life, spirituality, health, desires, ego. That's why we decided to create an outpatients department for integrative care in All Saints Hospital, the haven of peace in the heart of Strasbourg, in the middle of Strasbourg. We share the facilities and premises of the palliative care outpatients department. One day for them, one day for us. Patients have grade 2 or 3 symptoms caused by their cancer or its treatments. At the beginning of the day, the welcoming nurse makes the first observations and she evaluates all the symptoms on a visual analog scale. Then she suggests care activities for the day, designing a personalized care plan. Then I see the patient. After taking their past history and making a clinical examination, I validate the care plan or suggest other specific care. I am also responsible for writing the report, which will be sent to their oncologist and their GP at the end of the day. For me, it is important not to impose anything on patients. but to respect their wishes and practices. There is a consultation with the homeopath and with the acupuncturist. The both are doctors. We prescribe a completely personalized homeopathic treatment, and the patient have some acupuncture session. You see here it's for neuropathy. It's a very common side effect of chemotherapy, which is very difficult to treat with conventional treatments. Fatigue is very difficult to treat too, and homeopathy and acupuncture seem to work well for this. Auriculotherapy is one of the most helpful techniques for pain management. We use nitrogen, which is less painful for the patient than needles. Fatigue, pain, anxiety, insomnia, loss of memory, stress are often side effects of treatments due to the chemo brain toxicity. So we try, first of all, by meeting with the psychologist. This is a really important moment for the patient. She can speak, she can tell it as it is. Hypnosis is also very effective for pain management or for lifting a particular anxiety. We use too a virtual reality headset. It's very interesting. And for people who have pain, acute pain, one seance of virtual reality can lead to an immediate improvement of up to 2 points on the pain numeric rating scale. It's very interesting, and we use it very, very often. Mindfulness. The whole care team participates with the patients and caregivers. It is an important moment of renewal for all. That's a specificity of our outpatient department, because we take meal together, carers and patients. It's very surprising at the beginning, but it's very useful for links together. After the meal, the patient can see the dietitian or have an afternoon nap for the patients who are tired. We have bed for that. This care is given by a very experienced specialist oncology nurse, is very popular with patients for pain, for tension. This other nurse specializes in palliative care. She had a university diploma in aromatherapy. Returning to a well-groomed appearance is one more step toward well-being. At the end of the day, the patients go home. As you can see on the slide, she's smiling. Mission accomplished because the patient is okay. The whole care team work very well together. They share and compare their approach, their successes, and also their difficulties. Everyone in the care team is a graduate, of course, but they also have a specific diploma in their integrative specialty, guaranteeing quality and safety of the treatment pathways. This day in the outpatients department also provide loved ones with a welcome respite. All the caregivers are very happy to come to work because of the positive results they can see in the patients. Our outpatients department is open every Friday. Due to the current COVID restrictions, it can unfortunately only accommodate 4 patients per day. A functioning charter has been drawn up, a steering committee has been set up, and an evaluation of practices by quantitative study is in progress. Publications in reference medical journals are being submitted. Patients are coming from the 4 Strasbourg cancer centers. They are referred by their oncologist or by supportive care staff. It is free of charge for the patient. The French National Insurance covers the cost as it would for any other outpatients department. Thank you very much for your listening.
Merci, Dr. Jean-Lionel Bagot.
Thank you, Dr. Jean-Lionel Bagot. I believe there will be a real series of questions on your presentation. Now, our last speaker is Yvonne Samstag. She's a professor of cellular immunology at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. She's also a spokesperson of the Project Research and Practice Initiative, Complementary and Integrative Healthcare Baden-Württemberg, and of the research project Academic Center for Complementary and Integrative Medicine, funded by the Ministry of the State of Baden-Württemberg in Germany. She will give a presentation about how hospitals, universities, and the government have joined forces for integrative care, cancer care in Baden-Württemberg, which is an excellent model for the other countries as well. So now I give the floor to Professor Yvonne Samstag.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. I will just share my screen. Okay, I think everything is fine now. I have to get rid of this. Okay. So first, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk about our research and practice initiative, KIC-BAVU. So what is KIC-BAVU? Let's see. Doesn't want to work. Wait a second, please. KIC-BAVU means complementary and integrative healthcare provision for Baden-Württemberg. KIC-BAVU is funded by the Ministry of Baden-Württemberg in Germany. 2 consortia have joined forces for this initiative. Number 1 is the Academic Center for Complementary and Integrative Medicine, ACCIM for short. This was founded in 2016 by medical professors at the 4 university hospitals in Baden-Württemberg. Their aim is to investigate treatment options of complementary medicine on a scientific basis. Number 2 is the Competence Network for Integrative Medicine, KIM for short, which was founded in 2017. This is a consortium of medical doctors, nurses, and other health professionals in Baden-Württemberg who have been treating patients with complementary medicine in hospitals for many years. In the KIC-BAVU, we want to combine the broad therapeutic experience from KIM with the modern scientific know-how of ACCIM. Why are we doing this? As you all know, we have 2 major trends in medicine: conventional high-tech medicine and complementary medicine. You may be familiar with such situations from your personal environment. When people get sick, they often find themselves in a conflict. They have to decide whether to seek help in one medical direction or the other. but many also choose both. According to our current survey, around 50% of the patients at the university hospitals in Baden-Württemberg use complementary medicine, often without the doctors at the university hospitals knowing about it. And even if they do, they can rarely assess the benefits and risks of complementary medicine. Duplicate, misaligned treatment approaches are not only expensive, they can also be dangerous, as they can cause unexpected interference. We are therefore committed to resolving this dichotomy. Our keyword is one medicine, one patient-centered human medicine. In order to achieve this, we want to create the scientific basis for integrated healthcare, in which conventional and complementary treatment methods are offered hand in hand. To this end, we carry out basic research, clinical research, and healthcare research. Our focus here is on infectious diseases, chronic inflammatory diseases, cancer, and chronic stress. For these diseases, we will compile the existing empirical knowledge and conceive interdisciplinary and interprofessional research in order to ultimately create concrete treatment concepts for integrated healthcare. What is the added value of KICPAVU? Very important. The satisfaction of the citizens with our healthcare system will increase because citizens want this diversity in healthcare and they long for reliable and patient-centered advice. We will strengthen the quality of this integrated healthcare through modern interdisciplinary translational research. In addition, we urgently need high-quality education for young professionals, which we want to provide through university teaching and the establishment of research training groups. Moreover, for integrative healthcare, it is important that a real team spirit is created and that different health professions work together respectfully. In this regard, also interprofessional training courses need to be established. Of course, innovations in medicine that are frequently discussed nowadays, such as digitalization and personalized medicine, will also flow into integrative healthcare. Last but not least, integrated healthcare also offers an opportunity for cost savings. This is because salutogenesis, which includes keeping the patient healthy and mobilizing self-healing powers, plays an essential role in complementary medicine. As an immunologist, I see a great opportunity here with our current understanding of the immune balance to use complementary methods even more specifically in the future in order to stop the progression of diseases. In December 2020, Dr. Thomas Breitkreuz, the spokesman of KIM, introduced the activities of KIM at this place. Therefore, today I would like to introduce the activities of ATSKIM to you. ATSKIM specifically focuses on translational research and the qualification of young professionals. What does ATSKIM mean? Once again, it means Academic Center for Complementary and Integrative Medicine. It unifies different specialists of the 4 university hospitals in Baden-Württemberg, namely Roman Huber in Freiburg as a representative of internal medicine, Thomas Simmert and Tatjana Syrowetz in Ulm as pharmacologists and biochemists, Stefanie Joos in Tübingen as our representative for general medicine and healthcare research, and myself as the immunologist in Heidelberg. To establish a science-based integrative medicine, ATSKIM has developed activities in research, education and training, and patient care. The next slide will give you an insight into our recent research activities. ATSKIM performs basic research as well as clinical trials and healthcare research. We have put our focus on herbal active agents, nutrition, and acupuncture. One example is a pilot study on the effect of acupuncture in patients with chronic stress, which was performed in Tübingen and Heidelberg. This study indicated that acupuncture induces an improvement in stress symptoms as well as changes in metabolic and immune parameters. We are now planning a follow-up study. In addition, a randomized nutritional study was carried out in Freiburg. Here, healthy people were switched from a normal mixed diet to a vegan diet, or alternatively to a diet rich in meat. Also in this study, interesting changes in metabolic and immune parameters were observed and we are planning a follow-up study also here. In our basic research, we focus on the potential of herbal active agents to influence cancer and inflammatory diseases. I would like to present to you one example of our recent basic research. The substance that we have chosen is piperlongumine, a natural amide alkaloid present in piperlongum, which is also called long pepper. Long pepper is well known as a spice in Asian dishes and also used in Ayurvedic medicine. One obvious question is whether it could play a role in integrative oncology. There are several conventional cancer treatment options like surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and immunotherapy. A typical question in integrative oncology would be, what happens if patients take piperlongumine or eat a lot of long pepper during such treatments? In vitro studies and preclinical mouse models bearing colorectal cancer provided first evidence that piperlongumine may enhance the effect of chemotherapies. So far, no data existed with regard to potential effects of piperlongumine on the human immune system, and particularly on the immunotherapy of cancer. This is the question that we have addressed. Before I come to these data, let me first explain to you some principles of the immunotherapy of cancer. Of the immune cells in our body, T cells, which are shown here in gray, are key for the defense of tumors. They can recognize a tumor cell and eventually destroy the tumor cell. If this would always work perfectly, nobody would have cancer. The truth is that very often the immune reaction is too weak to eradicate the tumor. And this is the point where the immunotherapy of cancer comes into play. One famous example is the immunotherapy with checkpoint inhibitors. Checkpoint inhibitors are antibodies which kind of release the brakes of the T cells and thereby enable an enhanced killing of tumor cells. This slide shows such an effective tumor cell eradication by activated T cells in a melanoma patient. The black dots in the patient on the left-hand side indicate the presence of metastatic tumor cells before treatment. In the middle, you see the patient 3 months after treatment with a checkpoint inhibitor ipilimumab, an antibody against the inhibitory molecule CTLA-4. The metastases were effectively eradicated by the T cells. The immunotherapy of cancer is one of the most recent success stories in the field of oncology. In 2018, Tasuku Honjo and James Allison received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their discovery on cancer therapy by such checkpoint inhibitors. Now I would like to come back to piperlongumine. What would we expect to happen if a tumor patient, in addition to this immunotherapy, takes piperlongumine or eats a lot of long pepper? For reasons of time, I can only show you one slide of our original data. To make a long story short, we found that piperlongumine acts as an immunosuppressant on primary human T cells. On the right-hand side, you see that piperlongumine dose-dependently decreased the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Interestingly, this effect was inhibited by the antioxidant N-acetylcysteine. For a broader view on the effects of piperlongumine on primary human T cells, we in addition compared the expression of 600 immunorelevant genes after activation of T cells in the presence or absence of piperlongumine. You see this on the left-hand side. This showed that also the expression of genes related to T cell cytotoxicity, namely granzyme B and perforin 1, which are marked here in turquoise, were strongly decreased by piperlongumine. This means also the killing of tumor cells is inhibited by piperlongumine. Let me summarize the potential effects of piperlongumine in integrative oncology. Piperlongumine potentially enhances the effects of chemotherapy. However, piperlongumine also acts as an immunosuppressant for human T cells. Therefore, piperlongumine would probably counteract a T cell mediated immunotherapy of cancer and should probably be avoided under these circumstances. On the other hand, the finding that piperlongumine acts as an immunosuppressant for T cells may open new therapeutic options for patients with rheumatoid arthritis or other chronic inflammatory diseases. This will be the subject of our future studies. Having given you some insight in our state-of-the-art translational research, let me finish with saying some final words to the general funding situation for research in the field of complementary and integrative medicine. So far, public funding for independent research is hardly available. The arguments for that are sound scientific data from evidence-based studies is generally missing, mechanisms and effects are often vague, there's a risk of interference with conventional medicine, and another point is integrative medicine is rarely represented in funding organizations. I hope that I could convince you that addressing questions of integrative medicine with modern research tools, as we do it in ATSCIM and KICBAVU, will be able to eliminate this criticism. So my take-home messages for you are, we have new and highly sensitive research tools to investigate integrative medicine, and it is time for a strategy dialogue to combine our efforts for global integrative medicine. Our final goal should be one patient-oriented human medicine based on scientific evaluations. So I come to the end with thanking especially the state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany for supporting this idea and for providing financial support for our work. I also thank all my co-workers and collaboration partners inside and outside of ATSCIM and KICBAVU. And last but not least, I thank you for your interest in my presentation. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Merci, Professeur Yvonne Samstag.
Thank you, Professor Yvonne Samstag. We heard your request for further studies. I think it is very interesting to conduct clinical studies on piperlongumine, because if it had this immunosuppressant ability and if it could heal tumors, that would be great. Of course, there's a lot of research at the European level.
There are a lot of researches being
and
done
also
at
with
the
regards to
European
this
Parliament,
type
but
of
on plants, yes, this could be extremely interesting to
or
see
spice,
if they have
we would need to see if there are effects that we would need to further the research. So following these very important presentations that show what the integrative approach could bring to the patients and to the planet. And what I agree on is that there should be a complementarity between conventional medicine and integrative medicine. And now I'd like to give the floor to my colleague, Sirpa Kainer, who is at the PPE.
She's also a member of my interest
and
group,
she's a
Integrative
member
Medicine Health.
with
so
me.
You have the
so
floor,
Sirpa, you have the floor.
We can't hear the speaker.
Sirpa, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank all of our speakers today for very substantive and high quality interventions that were down to the point and on constructive approach to the one patient-oriented treatment in this time and in this debate concerning the cancer. but a lot of these points, of course, align, like our last speaker, with other challenges what we have with integrative medicine. And I only would like to pick up a couple of points what I found as general policy advice very important, what we have learned today. Firstly, there should not be a cancer plan in European Union that do not take into account the complementary and integrative medicinal approach. It would need to be patient-oriented. This would need to be the approach of the Cancer Committee in European Parliament also. And maybe we all together could summarize the very good points what we have raised already, and ask the Commission and ask, of course, the committee via the amendments to the Parliament's report to have the suggested guidelines how integrative medicine and alternative treatments should be streamlined and combined with other cancer treatments, be it during the cancer phase or then afterwards, like the other discussions how the pain can be mediated even later on. My second point is that this is the right of the patient, no matter what is the member state, to have the best treatment, and that is both in pharmaceutical and medical side, but also on this integrative and complementary treatments. We should actually create by European funding in the context of the cancer plan this kind of a database that actually was originally originated by Norwegians, where you could find the best guidelines, you could find the advice, and you could find the negative interactions and warnings in the cases they would need to be taken into account. And this should be this kind of an websites and resolve information to be used both by patients, patient organizations, as well as the medical professionals, no matter what is their personal preferences concerning the complementary treatments. Lastly, in the context of the cancer plan, and also later on when it comes to other aspects of integrative medicine and complementary medicine and treatments, we all know that we lack the research and we lack, that's why, the results. And we have heard already, like we have heard already earlier, that is not a question that we would not have the methodologies. This is not a question that we would not have the good and reliable and valid results. The question is that we do not have adequate EU funding and member states funding to produce this data and this track of research to support other treatments. And this is something that I think that we should hold as our key demands concerning, of course, the cancer program and treatment, but that should be part of the EU for Health program as well. I once again would like to thank Michèle, merci, and my other colleagues for doing very long-term, determined work for getting it right for the Europeans. And Tony, of course, for organizing not only this event, but quite a number of events and providing the background information and the contacts for the specialists. As well, once again, thank you for our participants. Please spread the word, continue the discussion, and our specialists please stay in contact with us and provide us with the newest information what we would need in decision making. Thank you.
Merci, Sirpa.
Yes, thank you, Sirpa. You see, these testimonies are extremely important. You see, there are not many MEPs which are really sensitive to this, let's say, very integrative, inclusive way to mix many different approaches for the patient's well-being. And before we move on to the chat questions, the Q&A session, if the person from the Commission, Mr. Paolo Rubinetti, I give him the floor for a few minutes if he wishes to share with us the Commission's position, because we had the cancer plan. You know that the MEPs had a special commission on cancer. So if you wishes to share with us a few words, you have the floor, Paolo. You have the floor.
Madame Rivasi.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Rivasi. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to being invited, even if at the last minute. Thank you to all the speakers for the interest they've created by their presentations. I would like to say,
sorry, the cancer plan is cross-cutting the entire cancer prevention and care pathway. And therefore, we are very interested to take in your messages, because I think also the approach of the integrative medicine to oncology is really the overall to have an impact on the overall pathway of the cancer care. And another element that is of pivotal importance is that everything should be patient-centered. I give you just a couple of information. You certainly know the structure of the cancer plan that is based on 4 main pillars. The pillars of prevention, the second pillar of early detection through screening, the third one, the support to increase the quality of diagnosis and treatment, and in particular, the final pillar really to give a support to the quality of life of patients and cancer survivors and their families. Through these 4 pillars, there is the research and technological cross-cutting theme, and the other crucial element of the plan that is trying really to reduce discrepancies and inequalities across the EU. You see that around the pillars and the cross-cutting issues, I think I recognize all of the elements that have been presented previously. I would say I remind some keywords that really attracted my attention, and that I see that can be really find their place in the implementation phase of the cancer plan. You know that now the cancer plan has been adopted, so we are really in the transitional phase in which we need to start to work in a way. And so these elements and these keywords are related to the comprehensive cancer centers, for example, that have been quoted. An element of the cancer plan will be to improve not only the number of the comprehensive cancer center across the EU, but also the quality. And in addition to that, to try to networking this comprehensive cancer center in order really to have an added value, especially to help those countries, those member states that are less equipped than other. The training will be a pivotal element of the cancer plan. And we will start with an interspecialty training program, giving the possibility really to interchange not only experience, but also training on the spot to specialists in oncologists. And when I say oncologist specialists, I will include not only the three main specialties that will start and will pilot the program. So the clinician, the surgeons, and the radiologists, but all the other specialists that are working with them. So really the training is a very pivotal element that will be implemented in the plan. Obviously, the scientific evidence will be crucial in order to give the implementable interface to many research that also are taking place not only by you, but many other scientists around the science of integration, integrative medicine, and oncology. Quality of life of cancer patients and survivors will be not only one pillar, but one of the most important elements of the plan. And so giving support to survivors after the cancer treatment, but also giving support to cancer patients during their treatment will be a target of the plan. I would say that really I am optimistic in telling that many of these elements can be fed not only by your experience, but your concrete contributor. The EU for Health program has been quoted previously, will be a channel without any doubt that will attract many and important attention from stakeholders. And I really suggest you and your network to follow up the next step in the implementation phase, because I'm sure that you can give a contribute to the mechanism that will be put in place in order to interact with the stakeholder, with member states, and with the European Parliament. Will be really a triangulation that will hopefully win many of the challenges that are posed to us. For the moment, I stop here. If you would like to enter in some detail, either in the plan of potential mechanism of cooperation, I'm here to answer your question. Over.
Merci, merci de cette ouverture.
Thank you very much for this opening. I didn't always find it, even in the European Parliament, because in fact, what you've focused on is, and I would like to say that the main asset of integrative medicine is the patient, and that would be good that we would see some creations of patient associations, patients who went through, who benefited from the aid, the services of these complementary medicines. Now it's time for a Q&A session, and now I will give the floor to Tony Ton Nicolai is the General Secretary of Eurocam. He will be the facilitator of this session. So you have the floor. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I have unmuted myself, so now I'm sure that you can hear me. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Paolo Giulmetti very much for his openness and his invitation to the community of integrative medicine and integrative oncology to give a contribution to the EU's Beating Cancer plan. So you can be sure that we will contact you shortly in order to see how we can contribute in the best possible way. Well, we have seen and heard many excellent presentations full of interesting facts, scientific research and practice of integrative treatment of cancer patients in several clinics across Europe. And for a number of people present here, this may be very new information and perhaps even information that requires further explanation and raises certain questions. So therefore you have the opportunity to ask the speakers questions for further clarification and explanation where necessary. You can use the chat function to ask your questions and indicate from which speaker you would like to have an answer. And I will then pass the questions on to the speaker and she or he will answer that question. I have already collected a few questions. The first question that I received was from Annika Teetinen, a naturopath from Finland, I suppose, who would like to ask a question to Dr. Bagot. She said, first of all, thank you for such a high-level group of doctors lecturing on a very topical issue. My question is, why is this integrative healthcare now important and what is your motivation? Can you say a few words about that, Jean-Lionel Bagot?
Yes, of course. First of all, it's not an alternative healthcare, it's an integrative healthcare. I think that everybody here is okay to say that there is no alternative treatment of cancer. There is only integrative treatment of cancer, of course. And for me, it was important in France to do this first experience because it's the first outpatient department. So it's kind of something very, very new and we are helped by the national assurance who contribute to pay this experience. And I want to thank also the hospital group who helped me to do that and to experience that. And of course, we do evaluation of our work. We do publication of our work, as all my colleagues do the same, of course, because we have to. It's a work in progress, you know, because it's something new. And Michèle Rivasi said that the important thing is the patient, and we have not now. We don't speak about a disease. We speak about a patient. It's very new because before we treat cancer, but now we treat a patient. And
Thank you. Sorry.
It's very important.
I have another question that is also in your area, I believe, that is about homeopathy. Here's a question from Katharina Glass. How far has homeopathy come in this field? There is a growing body of evidence for its efficacy in general. Lately also in oncology. What is your perspective?
Yes, I said to you before that in France it's very used by the cancer patients. One cancer patient every 30% of cancer patients use homeopathy. And in my experience, it's very useful because there is no interaction with cancer treatment and there is no side effects. So it's very useful for me to prescribe this kind of treatment, and I have very good results with that. Okay. So I use very often homeopathy in my treatments.
Thank you. I have a question to Professor Samstag. It's a question from Lucas Klooster. Do you see a difference between immune pathology related to the innate part or the adaptive part of the immune system? For me, it's not very clear, but I'm sure it's very clear for you, Professor Samstag.
So the question was whether we see a difference of bipalongermin on the innate and adaptive part.
Yeah, that's true. That's the idea. Yeah.
Yes. We have not investigated the innate part so far, so we were focusing on the adaptive part of the immune system, which is the specific immune system, and this is especially important for the defense of cancer cells. And of course, there is also the cancer microenvironment, which includes the cells of the innate immune system, other cells, other leukocytes, and we are going to address this question as well. But we haven't done this so far.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you. I have another question, not for you, Professor Samstag, but for Dr. Eres. A question, could you please elaborate on the U slide? I don't know what is meant by that, but I'm sure you know the U slide, the letter U.
I don't know if
no?
He's referring to units, or I don't understand the question. Really.
Okay, then we go on, sorry. Another question to, I don't know for whom, but it is a question posed by Zeus. Is there more research on the effect of neural therapy known? I'm a neural therapist stationed in the Netherlands, so this will be very interesting to me. Is there anyone from the speakers who has expertise on neural therapy?
So in
cancer,
we use neural therapy for pain in cancer, for example, but there are not so much clinical scientific evidence in this field, but the empirical results are really good. So it's a very nice technique to use and very safe.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you. Another question from the YouTube live stream. Who pays for the therapies, patient or the state or the insurance companies? It depends on the country, I suppose. Yeah, it may be different in Switzerland and in Germany and France. Is there anyone who has a sort of overview?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay.
So it really depends on the country. And for example, in Switzerland, there's been a public voting and complementary medicine is mentioned in the constitution. Some services provided by the medical doctors are part of the basic insurance, which includes, for example, also acupuncture. But there's also, if it is not provided by medical doctors, but by therapists, there are private insurances. And in the UK, you have a national health system, and usually some services have been covered within the national health system, but also in now more previous times, this has been reduced. And this always happens also a little bit when financial resources are getting a little bit more tense than before. And in Germany, it it really depends on the indications. But for example, in Germany, acupuncture for cancer patients, there's no indication where it is covered. But if it is done as an inpatient service, it can be covered by the hospital within the DRG. So it's very complicated and different over the different European countries.
Okay. And how about France, Dr. Bagot? Is it out of their own pockets that the patients have to pay, or is there some sort of insurance or state
for the
coverage?
outpatient department, it's free of charge for outpatient department. And when the people go to see a private psychologist, for instance, in Strasbourg, we have a special help of the National Cancer Plan, who give money to oncologic network of Alsace, and oncologic network of Alsace pay the psychologist, for instance. And for all the patients, the national insurance pay for the doctors, for acupuncture, for homeopath. The homeopathy until the 1st January is not paid in France. It's new, but it's only €3 one medicament, you know. So if you prescribe 2 medicaments, it's only €6. It's not so expensive. So we have help from the National Cancer Plan, and we have help from the National Assurance, Sécurité Sociale.
Okay, thank you. There's another question to you, Dr. Bagot, from Maria Chacho. Has your model of complementary and integrative medicine been adopted in the UK?
Oh, I don't know for the UK. I don't know. I can't answer. Okay. I know that you have an integrative center in London who works very well, in Glasgow too, but I don't know in the little town, in the other towns, I don't know.
Is there any one of the other speakers who is aware of the situation on integrative oncology in the UK? Claudia? Petra? No? No, okay. So we can't answer your question. There is another question. What do you think about gluten for oncology patients? That is a question from Elvira Pasirico. Is there someone who can address that question? Gluten and oncology patients. Is
Het adres van Samwan is ingeland hier.
No.
So in a practical view, in cancer care, we usually low carbohydrate diets, because there are so many studies about that, and sometimes low gluten or gluten-free diets if people has a kind of intolerance, but not for other reason. But in a healthy context, the bread has to be low in, not high in gluten. Only a healthy question.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering, do the speakers have any question they would like to pose to the members of the parliament, some request or whatever? No?
Je pourrais dire quelque chose?
Oui, bien sûr.
Can I say something? Yes, of course. I'm very happy about this meeting, and I really hope, Mrs. Rivasi, we can continue to work together further. The patients are expecting a lot from us. We need to put patients at the center, both at the center of the research and at the center of our discussions.
Too, because we have so much to do, Thank you.
Okay. Someone else? Petra? I thought you were about to say something.
Yes, I'm just putting my glasses up, but I would like to know what you need from us in order to be in order to support integrative medicine. Do you need any information we didn't give today, or what is your wish for us to do so you can support our work?
Michèle, can you answer the question from Petra Voice?
Yes, we need you because, as you saw, there are many impediments, many obstacles with regards to the perception that conventional medicine has on integrative medicine and complementary medicine. This is in relation to the training of doctors. Everyone works in silos, and what made things, is changing things as the patients actually. The first speaker talked about palliative care, and palliative care enabled surgeons to understand and oncologists to understand that there was an improvement in with regards to well-being, and progressively the patients got the perception of that conventional medicine had of integrative medicine. They changed its perception. So with regards to our group on integrative medicine, where we have members of parliament from different political groups and parties, I felt it also as part of the Cancer Commission. And it's always the search for treatment, the search for a medicine that will be the be-all and end-all for cure. But the approach, and also Paolo, what Paolo mentioned is that the approach should include the patient right from the start. The patient should be integrated in this medicine that will integrate the whole being. So I need to organize maybe meetings with the Commission so that we can make this change the situation with regards to the fourth pillar on support. We need we need to change this way of seeing things, and we need to maybe support clinical trials more, because what is interesting is with integrative medicine is that it is integrated in hospitals. So, and there's a lack of studies that show the added value of that way of working rather than a more vertical way of working. So we need more support with regards to research, with regards to clinical trials, with your participation, so that we have arguments, we have much more in-depth arguments, and that we can associate patients who have experimented with this integrative medicine. I think patients are our best assets for promoting this integrative medicine, and they're not sufficiently put forward.
To Madame Rivasi's statement. Thanks a lot. I think from the Commission side, we need the help of everybody. And it's a reality that you are working on the front line. And to talk about quite concretely, because Madame Rivasi has quoted the silos approach. I think that we need also to accept the idea that in the past, maybe we were more or less the champion of this silos approach. But with the cancer plan, I think we are changing the way really of translating something in concrete. And for example, under the fourth pillar, the quality of life of cancer and the cancer survivor, we have the intention of create and is quite explained, well explained in the plan, in the communication, a network of cancer patients and cancer survivor patients across the EU, where each member state in principle is expected to choose and to nominate or to build some reference that can really have an added value on this kind of issues, on this kind of activities. And so really, I think that we need that you enter a little bit more in detail in reading the communication and its annex, because in the annex are specified also concrete activities and the flagship that will be in the future financed and supported by different mechanisms across the Commission. Because I remind, it's very important to remind you that the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan is not the DG Sant cancer plan, it's the overall the Commission cancer plan. And we really need to do an effort of involving colleagues in a cross-cutting way in order to bring all the elements that contribute to the benefit of the patients, as Madame Rivasi has so well underlined. And so maybe also to shift in a more concrete way from the sort of little bit bureaucratic approach and the concrete translation of the action that can benefit the patients. And so I think you are working already with the advantage of having this cross-sectorial approach. And so you are not biased by some silos decision-making process or interest. And so really I leave to you, because I remember that the full competence finally is with the member states. And so from the planning of the health system to the treatment of the cancer patient is under their responsibility. And so, but really playing the game together, I think that we will progress. Over to you.
Yeah. Petra Voice said, how can we as scientists and practitioners in the field of integrative oncology contribute to this European Beating Cancer Plan? I think Eurochem can be a good interlocutor between the scientific community and both the Commission and the European Parliament. So I would propose that we keep in touch with both the Commission and especially with you, Paolo Giulmetti, and the Interest Group on Integrative Medicine and Health in the European Parliament, and see what we can do together as an addition to the European Beating Cancer Plan. Would that be a good idea, Michèle?
En tout cas, au niveau parlementaire,
Well,
je suis tout à fait...
With regards to the European Parliament, I totally agree with the fact of working together with the Commission, because as you see, we're making progress and we need the Commission to be on board. We can find people from the different member states. The members of the European Parliament often represent their countries, so I totally agree with that. So it means concretely that this group, together with all the speakers, Claudia, Petra, Natalia, Yvonne, Jean-Lionel, and other people that you know, we need to form a group and we need to improve the text, whether it is to do with the cancer strategy, as Paolo presented it, or the cancer plan that will be presented by members of the European Parliament within the framework of the Commission in order to fight cancer. So I think we can improve the situation.
So it's up to you, Michèle, to close the meeting with your final conclusion and final words.
Mais d'abord, un grand merci.
Well, first of all, I'd like to really thank you all for collaborating to this webinar. And I'd like to also schedule a next meeting. I'd like to the group to be able to work together, to continue to progress together with the Commission. The objective is to fight against this cancer epidemic and to place the patient at the center by by getting the situation to change with regards to training, education, and research. We need to make a move on this. This is very important. And secondly, the patient needs to be the voice for a much more inclusive and integrative approach in medicine. And then I think I would like to I want to say see you at the next meeting. I'm sure things will progress and there will be the report elaborated and implemented by the MEPs. So please don't hesitate to contact the members of the European Parliament in your countries so that they really focus on integrative medicine. And I would like to also thank all the technical team that enabled this webinar to be performed. Thank you very much.